Hi all the students. Today we are going to study another important topic, that is internetworks. So what is an internetwork? If I talk about the definition of an internetwork, the definition says that a collection of interconnected networks. A collection of interconnected networks is called an internetwork or an internet. So that means if I say an internet or an internetwork, that is same. So what is an internet or what is an internetwork? An internetwork is a collection of interconnected networks. Now what do you mean by interconnected networks? You must have heard these two terms. One is inter and other is your intra. These two terms you must have heard commonly. So what is inter? Inter is between two different parties and intra is within the same similar kind of two bodies or similar kind of things. Say for example, if it is an inter-school competition, when we say inter-school competition, that means between different schools. And when I say an intra-school competition, that means within the school itself. So the word inter involves different entities. So inter means between different entities and intra means among the same entity, right? So if I say it is an inter-school competition, that means it is within different schools, and when I say it is an intra-school competition, that means it is within the same school. So the same way, when I say an internetwork, that means within different networks. So a collection of interconnected networks is called an internetwork or internet. That means interconnected in what sense? Different kind of networks which are interconnected or which are connected. We use the term inter only because they are different kind of networks. So when different kind of networks are connected together, it forms an internetwork or an internet. Now what do you mean by different kind of networks? When I say different kind of network. So when I say different kind of network, what do you understand by this? The first question that arises in your mind is that what is the meaning of different kind of network here? So by different kind, I mean those the networks which use different hardware or different software, which are using different hardware configuration or different software configuration. And since they are using different hardware and different software, so the protocols that they are using are also different, right? If there is network 1 and network 2, so the hardware used for network 1 is H1 and the software used for network 1 is S1, right? Similarly for network N2, the hardware used is H2 and the software used is S2. So for this hardware and software, the set of protocols that are being used is, say for example, protocol 1. And for this particular network N2, the set of protocols that are used are, say for example, protocol 2. So if these two networks want to communicate with each other, they are having different hardware and software configurations, and hence they are having different protocols also. And now if these two different networks want to communicate, this communication will be called Internetworking. Rather, not these networks want to communicate, but the hosts on these different networks want to communicate. Now this is one network, this is another network. On this network there must be different hosts, say for example H1, H2, H3. And on this network I also have different hosts, say for example HN1, HN2 and HN3. Now if HN1 on network 2 wants to communicate with H3 on network 1. Now network 1 has different protocols and network 2 has different protocols, and these two hosts on different networks want to communicate. So such kind of a communication or such kind of a connection between two different networks when their hosts want to communicate with each other is known as internetworking or internetwork or internet. Now one question that must be arising is that what is a protocol? For many of you this is a very new word. You do not know what a protocol is. So protocol is basically the set of the rules for communication. These are the set of rules for communication between nodes in the same network, right? So when the hosts or nodes or machines are in the same network, they follow the same rules for communication, and these rules are known as protocol, right? But when two hosts on two different networks want to communicate, then there are different set of protocols, and then how they will communicate, this is a question in itself. And this kind of a connection between two different networks, as I told you, is internetworking or internet. Now protocol, you all know, set of rules for communication between nodes in the same network. Now for connecting, now if this is network 1 and this is network 2, and they have different hardware and software configuration, and hence they have different protocol sets. So I can say that N1 and N2 are incompatible networks. They are not compatible with each other. They are incompatible networks because this is a completely different network with different hardware and software configuration and different protocols, and N2 is also a completely different network with different hardware and software configuration and different protocols. So I can say that they are incompatible networks. So in order to connect two different networks or two incompatible networks, they are connected by machines. And what are these machines called? They are called gateways. So the two incompatible networks or two different networks are connected with each other with the help of machines, which are known as gateways. So what are gateways doing here? Gateways are here doing the task of connecting two incompatible or two different networks. All right, now we'll proceed further with this only. Okay, now when these gateways, as I told you that a gateway will connect two incompatible networks. So how does it connect two different compatible networks? It provides the necessary translation between these two networks, because network 1 is using a different set of protocol, and network 2 is using a different protocol. So with the same protocol, two networks can easily communicate, but with different protocols, two networks cannot communicate directly. So there is a need for translation, and this translation is provided by the gateways. Imagine a situation where there are two people. One speaks English and the other speaks Germany, and both of you want to communicate with each other, but you do not have the same common language, right? Similarly, N1 and N2 are two different networks, and the hosts on N1 and N2 want to communicate with each other, but they are not having the same protocols because they are different or incompatible networks. So what do you do? What do two people with two different languages, knowing two different languages, when they want to communicate, what do? They use a translator. So a person who understands both the languages, so for a person who understands and speak English, the translator converts German into English, and if for a person who understands German, the translate converts English into German. So this is what the gateway is doing here. Gateway is providing the necessary translation of the protocols between two different networks. Now, a common form of internet, if I tell you what is a common form of internet, you can visualize, or internetwork for that matter. These are two same terms. So a common form of internet is where different LANs are connected by a WAN. You know, a LAN has a single communication channel. If I talk of a LAN, there is a single communication channel. So if it is say in the form of a bus, then this is one communication channel, and there are different hosts on this communication channel. So if I say this is LAN 1, and then this is LAN 2 with 4 hosts again, and a linear bus, a linear cable, a single communication channel, this is LAN 2. So when these two LANs are connected using a WAN, this would be known as an internet. Or when, so the only difference between a subnet and a WAN, now you would say that different LANs are also connected using subnets, but in a subnet there are only, when I talk of a subnet consists of only the routers and the communication lines, right? But when I talk of a WAN will consist of routers also and hosts also, right? So in case of a LAN, you have various communication lines connected through a subnet. That means which is having routers also and communication lines also. But in case of an internet, you have different LANs, or a LAN or WAN different LANs connected by a WAN. And the difference between a subnet and a WAN is that a subnet will consist of only routers and communication lines, whereas a WAN would consist of both the routers and the host. This is the difference between a subnet and a WAN. So when two LANs are connected using a WAN, such kind of a configuration is known as an internet. Now there is quite a confusion among subnets and your what do you call them, networks and internetworks. These are always confused, right? So let us clear this confusion first of all. What is a subnet? Let's revise it once again. What is a subnet? So a subnet is used mostly in case of WANs, right? When we talk of WANs or in context of WANs, a subnet makes sense, where it refers to the collection of, obviously it is the collection of routers plus your communication lines, right? So a subnet most of the times is used in case of WANs. Then if I talk of a LAN, a LAN usually consists of one cable, right? There is one cable and all of the systems are connected to that was one single cable, right? So when you can connect different LANs using a subnet. Using a subnet, you can connect different LANs, and this subnet would consist of routers and the transmission lines. So this is a normal network. But when LANs are connected using your WAN and not a subnet, remember here I am replacing the subnet with a WAN, right? Then it is called an internet. Now the only difference here is that a subnet consists of routers and transmission lines, whereas a WAN consists of routers as well as host. So when two different LANs are connected using a WAN, would be known as an internet or internetwork. So basically I can say that an internetwork or an internetwork or an internet is formed when distinct networks are interconnected. So if there is a LAN and a WAN, or two LANs, they could be a LAN. If there are two different LANs which are connected using a WAN, this LAN is using different protocol and this LAN is using different protocol, and they are connected using a WAN, I can call it an internet or an internetwork. And by distinct networks, what do we mean? Distinct networks are those networks which are using different hardware and software configuration, and hence they are using different protocols. And which is the most important device for the connection of two different networks? Gateway, because it does the task of translation of protocols. It does the task of translation of protocols for two incompatible networks. So this is the definition of an internet or an internetwork.